Good afternoon.
I was ready for you to launch into good morning,
I know
Truro.
I had to look at my
area.
my clock because I wasn't sure what time it was. It's Friday. I don't think we've ever done this on a Friday before.
No.
It's also a Friday before a long weekend, which is always exciting to look at. I mean, it feels like
It's a very fall Friday. It's like
yes.
turtleneck of the season today, and
Yeah, turtleneck weather is back. So I'm always
yes.
excited about that. So I'm really, here I go again, but it's true. I'm really excited to chat with our guest today. We just haven't seen this gal in quite a while. So
No.
we just had a very brief pre-chat and excited to talk to her more this morning or this afternoon with you guys. So without further ado, here is Leah Johnston.
Hello.
Hello.
So nice
How are
to
you
be
doing?
here. I'm great. It's great to see you guys. As I was saying before, haven't seen you in a hot minute. Liam and I worked on a film project a few years ago.
Yes.
And I guess Michelle and I kind of know each other through just out and about in the town.
Yeah, random bits and pieces.
Yeah, I'm touched and also terrified that you guys thought of me because I've just been such a hermit. I mean, I guess we all have through COVID.
Very much.
It's brought forth my hermeticness even more.
Yeah. It's kind of given us homebodies an excuse to continue to be homebodies.
Such a good excuse. Yes. And honestly, my life hasn't changed that much during COVID. Like I just, working from home, writing.
Yeah.
I don't go out very much anyway. So
I know it's funny how you can hear the different stories. I mean, we're all kind of on a bit of a level-ish playing ground. I know there's obviously lots of various experiences people are having through the pandemic, but for the most part, that's true. It's like we're all kind of, making do with with how it's always been, or a lot of us creative people anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Some people's lifestyles have shifted like 180, complete. And some people, the transition's been smoother. And I would definitely say for me, smoother, because it's like, yeah, I didn't go out much anyway. I didn't.
Yeah.
Aside from when I'm shooting. When I'm shooting, I'm out and about in the world. But other than that, I'm kind of in my head and, at home a lot. So yeah.
So for the purposes of anyone watching, Leah, when you say shooting, obviously you're referring to film. Maybe just give us a little bit of a background on your film career, because obviously, not obviously, we know you've had a great career in film. You've done great photography, and maybe just give us a bit of a background for the purposes of the folks watching.
Sure. So yeah, my name's Leah. I'm a filmmaker. I'm from Truro. I was born in Halifax, but grew up in Truro. My family still lives there. And yeah, I grew up, I was a musical theater kid, singing, dancing, acting, and Truro was just such an awesome place to grow up doing that. I feel like the community, I don't know if it's like this around all creative communities in Truro, but I felt especially around performing. There was a really small but mighty community and really supportive of young artists. And you see, like there's been quite a number of people that have come out of Truro that have gone on to the performing arts. So I initially I left and I went to New York when I graduated high school and was doing acting and all that for a number of years. And eventually, long story short, I transitioned over into being a filmmaker, going behind the camera and writing and directing. And so I've been doing that for, I guess, the last like a little under a decade. And in 2000, I was living in the States for a long time. And then in 2013, I moved back I got a grant to make a film in Nova Scotia. And so I moved back home and made it in Truro. And once again, felt the warm embrace of just such a supportive community. It was really kind of full circle for me to come back and be making, my first kind of professional film there. And I really credit the community with helping me do it, because on a short film, you need so much support to pull it off, because you don't have enough money. And, living in a place like LA, it's kind of like you're thrown to the wolves in that regard. Like, you may not have that kind of community around you, and everyone else is kind of doing the same thing. So it was really great to come back and make that film there. And I've made a number of short films, and in the last few years, I've just been trying to transition into longer form projects, so features and television as a writer director. So that was a long background, but that's kind of my journey, and it continues on. Yeah.
It's good, because you reminded me, I think that's when we met, was when you came back. And remember, you were using the Johnston Inn, were you not, for that film?
Yes. And you were working there, and you helped kind of facilitate that whole, it was such a great location. We were looking for this for that film. It was called Some Things Won't Sleep. And we were looking for this old, kind of stately, scary house. It was kind of a scary movie. And we ended up using the John Stanfield Inn, and I don't know what you would call that. There was another house as well in Truro that we used, but that was one of the things that was so great about Truro, was that, especially like having tried to make films in LA, like everyone is like, okay, how much are you going to pay me for the mansion? And you're like, I have $10. Like, it was just very hard to make films in certain places where, people are kind of accustomed to maybe television shows coming in or big movies. And then, in Truro, people basically just opened up their houses and were like, do you want to come? Oh my God, you're going to make a movie in my home? It was that sort of accommodation that allowed, I think, the film looks like it was more expensive than maybe it was, because we got access to these really amazing locations. And not only that, like, volunteers, people in the community came out and like physically helped. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, there's nothing in it for you other than just, wanting to help a local artist make something. So it was really great.
And I think I remember, the hotel being excited by that too. The staff were excited, like just to have sort of that happening. And, because it doesn't happen very often in Truro. So it was cool to have that all around us during that time.
Well, and that building is Truro famous unto itself.
It is. It's nice to have it featured and sort of immortalized on film. But that's a nice thing also as a filmmaker, is to be able to showcase some of the places and love. I get to, when you watch short films, it's really nice because you get a little slice of all these, people send in for local film festivals. Even they send in short films from all around the world. So I was just adjudicating a film festival. Like, you're seeing a little piece of the Netherlands, and you're seeing, so it's great when you have the opportunity to feature your hometown or, local actors and stuff like that. It's awesome.
It's very cool. And remind me, I have a terrible memory, so I might be making some of this up, but was that the movie that you had won funding from Telefilm, or was that the next one?
Well, I never, because Telefilm does features, so they don't fund short films. So I had gotten a grant from National Screen Institute.
That's it. Thank you.
Yes, and they don't actually have that granting program anymore. They have other programs, but I'm really lucky that I got that when I did, because a lot of the funding for short films across Canada has been cut. which is a real disservice to emerging filmmakers. There used to be a fund called Bravo Fact, which funded a film I did in 2000. I shot it in 2015, released it in 2016, called Ingrid and the Black Hole.
Yeah.
And that, that fund, basically the year after I got it, I think it went away. So National Screen Institute Drama Prize was the name of the program I got in 2013. That also no longer exists. So I was very fortunate to kind of get the tail end of what was, at the time, some of the short film funds. Now it's basically Nova Scotia Arts Council, your provincial arts council, and like Canada Arts Council is how you get funded for a short film.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
So disappointing, because it would be, as a filmmaker starting out, the idea of only being able to get funding for a feature, like a short film is kind of where you begin.
You need to, yeah, and the chances of them saying, yeah, we're going to fund your feature if you haven't done short films, like that's the training ground, right? But the landscape's always shifting. Telefilm is now offering what was called the micro budget program, and now that Talent to Watch, which is a very low budget feature film. So I guess they're less risk adverse, in terms of that. I've seen people get that have done like maybe one short film or two. And so they are a little more liberal, I guess, in the dispersing of funds than they were when it was sort of only at a certain threshold that they gave out, like a higher budget. But it's still hard. It's still hard. I mean, even doing short films to break into features. And, for me, I want to do a feature that, I want to have enough resources to tell the story right.
Right.
And to put that together, like if you don't want necessarily to go in for a micro budget, like a really, really small, if the story you're telling requires more, it can be hard to make that transition. That's sort of where I'm at right now, is I've been trying to do a feature, and I've been working on it for a long time, but how to put it together and to get all those elements to then ask for a higher amount,
right?
That can be challenging, and that's why I'm working on another short film. I swore I'd never make another one. I'm like, I'm done, but I am making another one in the meantime. Yes.
Awesome. So that you're working on that other short film right now, you mean?
Yeah, I guess I just felt, because I put out my last film in 2016, and it's been a minute, and I've been kind of just behind the scenes doing a lot of work, but not anything that anyone's seeing, because I haven't made my feature yet. So I was like, I just want to keep busy. I want to keep making things. So I applied for funding to Canada Arts Council for a short film, and I'm working on that now. It seems like I kind of started pre-production just a few weeks ago, going to Newfoundland, which is where the film is based, and casting and location scouting, and quickly realized I'm going to have to push till next spring, summer, because of different things related to COVID. Tough time to hold auditions.
Yeah.
I believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. Hard, people having to socially distance, and I have kids in the film, and like to get them, you're trying to coax performances out of them with another actor, and it can be hard. So tough to get people out. And then, one of our props is weirdly a seal skin, and I want to get an authentic seal skin, and they didn't do the seal hunt this year because of COVID, which is like a weird thing you wouldn't know until you're really
there.
investigated and went to Newfoundland. Yeah, but they didn't do the seal hunt that they do normally in April. So I can't get that prop until next year. But also my characters in the film, they go into the ocean, and so it's kind of
I am so intrigued. Like by you saying sealskin, I'm just like, what is this movie?
What?
So,
Yeah, it's a weird short film based a little bit on some of my. I'm trying now with my films to bring in a little more of real life. So I'm bringing in some elements of, like, it's inspired by my family history, my mom's childhood, and it's about this little girl growing up in a troubled home, and her mother is depressed, and she doesn't really understand. The girl's only like 5. She doesn't really understand the cause, but there's sort of allusion to abuse maybe happening within the household. And then there's a sort of a mythology element in the film that kind of, I don't know if anyone's gonna get it, because not many people know about selkies, which is
they're kind of, yeah, it's a wine, but it's also, they're like mermaids, are they not?
No, they're they seem kind of like mermaid. Yes, they're somewhat mermaid like, I guess, in the sense that, I mean, they're not mermaids, but they're seal people.
Yes.
There are people that transform into seals and become humans. And so the myth is one of the predominant myths coming out of Ireland is that, female selkies will bathe on the shore, become naked, beautiful women. And if a man sees them and steals their sealskin, one of the women is basically his prisoner. Like, they cannot return to the sea, and so he can marry her, he can have children with her, but she will spend her time on land longing to return to the sea, her rightful home. And basically in the myth, what happens a lot of the time is that their child unknowingly discovers the sealskin, shows the mother, and the mother's like, bye, and the ocean. So it plays sort of like a normal drama, and then this skin shows up, and well, you can probably guess what happens, but
fantastic.
there's a myth element going through it, and I'm like, I don't know if people will get it, but for some of those mythology nerds, there'll be a little mystery. Yeah, there'll be something in there for them. But
I remember seeing, sorry, Sam. I remember seeing Ingrid in the Black Hole. Did you have it at the Short Film Festival, Sam? Is that where I saw it? Yes, and being so moved by it.
Oh.
Well, my mom had Alzheimer's, so there was that vein there. And I was just like, this is so beautiful.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, that's, my grandmother also had Alzheimer's. I was one of her caretakers actually in Truro when I moved back in 2013 while I was making Some Things Won't Sleep. That was like my job, my side job was taking care of my grandmother. And so I noticed during that, like, she was kind of a time traveler in her own mind. Like, she would just be in a different time. Anytime you talk to her, she was at one moment 5 years old. The next moment she was an old lady. Like, and so I thought there was something to that. Like, I don't know how to turn this into a film, but like, there's something cool about the idea that she's like a time traveler in her own mind. And I couldn't figure out sort of the form, like how to dramatize that. But I eventually, sat down one afternoon. I'm like, I really want to come up with another idea for short film. And I finally kind of figured out a way with that. That was ended up being the film. But it was something that was in my mind for a long time. Like, how do because there's something, I think normally Alzheimer's is also depicted in a really sort of depressing, negative way. And not that it's not a very sad disease, but I also saw another side of it, which is like my grandmother was sort of totally unencumbered by ignorant of kind of this journey she was on. And so I wanted to depict that as well. But I'm very touched that
no, it stuck with me, because I used to say that my mom was like a skipping record. She'd, like you say, bounce between eras and times, and and where she was in her life. And it was a beautiful depiction of something that's really, like you say, not that beautiful. So
yes. Oh, thank you.
welcome.
Yeah.
It was really well done. We have a mutual friend in Rena. Hey, Leah, she was in that one, right?
Yeah, she was so fantastic.
Such a great job.
Yeah, I guess, is she in Truro?
She's in Portapique, actually, so just outside of Truro. Yeah.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Oh my God. Yes.
And it was nice that I got to play the shorts in Truro and have that little. I was very touched to have
I
that.
loved that night. That was a fun night. It was like, we're bringing film to Truro, like local.
Yes,
Truro.
yes.
It was
And it was great.
fun.
You guys, didn't you feature Corey the next year? Which is so great because he has some, he's definitely Truro famous. He's doing so much great work, and Black Cop especially resonant right now.
Yeah, we actually showed Black Cop too. We had a screening last year at the Marigold and showed Black Cop to the folks and had a Q&A after.
That's awesome. What was the response?
It was great. We had so many people, I think similar to yours. I think a lot of people had some good questions, but at Black Cop 2, there were some really great interaction with the audience afterward, asking questions. So it was really, really well done. And we had Corey on one of these chats before too.
Yes, I saw. And I saw Jonathan Torrens, who's just the sweetest, greatest guy. I'm just like, I feel like, so, I mean, I'm not in Truro right now, but it's like, it's so sweet that it's so wonderful that someone like he's kind of Canada famous, and he's like wanted to live in Truro, and I think that's awesome. I think I ran into him once at like the Sobeys, and I'm just starstruck seeing him there in front of the sushi talking. He's great.
He's just such a down-to-earth kind of guy too, which is nice.
He's so real, and he always is just such a force of positivity in a world that is right now very dark at times.
True. Yeah.
So I'm always curious because I know, Michelle, you do a bit of writing as well. I'm a writer. I'm always curious to know where that inspiration comes from. So I know you talked about your grandmother, and I know you talked about with this new one, kind of taking some real stuff from your mom's life as well. But like, where does that, generally speaking, your inspiration for writing come from when you're working on a project?
Gosh, well, I'll have to ask you the same question. But I don't know. I'm always digging. I go into periods where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to take on my next project. What is it? And just kind of looking at everything through that lens, everything that happens. You're watching news stories. I always find, for me, like, a lot of my inspiration comes sort of internally, I guess, through sort of introspection and thinking, like, what am I thinking about right now? What stories am I interested in? What am I, sort of ruminating on? Some of my films have come from photographs I've done. Like, I had a visual idea for a photo and shot that, and then, what's the concept behind the photo? Is there a longer story? But yeah, I guess like the answer is like, inspiration can come from anywhere. And I feel like just giving yourself the space to come up with ideas, like undistracted, which is the hardest thing nowadays. It's like, can you spend a day and be patient enough to sit with yourself for a day, not do anything else, not check emails or whatever, and just search, just think.
Yeah.
I always find, like, at least for me, if I do that for a few days, it always feels it always feels like, oh my God, I'm never going to come up with another idea. Like, that one was the last one. Like, it's over for me. But whenever I do that and just kind of like have the faith, like something will come of this, it doesn't like your brain or the universe or whatever, wherever ideas come from, it doesn't disappoint. Like there always seems to be something that comes out of it, even if it's not like, oh, that idea is gold on the first day. Maybe on the third day of doing that, there's a little piece of something that then you connect with another thing, and then it turns into your next project. But
Yep.
I think just having the patience and patience with yourself and the like faith that something will appear if you just give it the space. But so often we don't. Like, and I find that's the hardest thing is just sitting down and like turning everything off and believing and like not beating yourself up in that too. If you don't come right away.
That's the hard part right there, Leah, is not beating yourself up.
Yeah, it's such the whole experience of, making art is an act of faith. And, you have to also be really gentle with yourself through it because, no one thinks they're brilliant and no one thinks that like it's sort of comforting to see, I have lots of friends that are filmmakers and some of them, successful filmmakers, and they all feel the same way. They all feel like, that's it for me. There's nothing left. Like I'm a one-hit wonder, whatever. So recognizing that everyone has those feelings and then trying to just commit to doing it anyway, commit to the process of being open and allowing, like writing down your stupid idea and then writing down another stupid idea and feeling like, oh, those are all, and sticking.
But eventually it will get to the good idea that you'll run with. Yeah.
And I do find like it doesn't disappoint. Like if I sit down for a day or two, like I'll always come away with something. I'm never disappointed in that way because I don't know why. And I always feel like it won't work, but it always somehow does. So
I love that.
I'm sure same with any artist. What about you, Sam?
Well, it's funny you say like the introspection. That's all I draw from is just like whatever happens to be kind of percolating in me in terms of my own experiences or in terms of experiences that I've shared with other folks or that they've shared with me. But what I love about what you were describing with your new short film is you're taking that, but you're adding the mythological component to it. That's the part that I, as a writer, I'm not adventurous in that way. So if I were writing, it would be a very realistic storyline, for example.
There's a great argument for doing that. Like, I'm like, why did I do that? I need it so much more complicated. I can't shoot till next summer because I need a seal an author.
But that gives it so much more depth and story. You know what I mean? Like it feels so much more interesting to me to add that component.
Well, that's nice of you to say. I find maybe it's the grass is always greener because I find I look at artists that just tell a straight up story. I'm like, why can't I do that? Like that was really good. And they did that for like a low budget and it was really straightforward. And like, why can't I just like it's like I have this shame around simplicity, which is actually the most beautiful thing. So I feel the opposite. Like I'm like, I wish I could just, why do I always have to complicate things so much?
Isn't that funny how I feel like it's literally always the opposite of what you have that you wish that you had.
Well, of course. My friend Heather Young just did a film called Murmur.
Oh, I want to see Murmur. I saw she posted. Is it coming out on Apple soon?
I think it's going to be out on iTunes like any day now. But I just rewatched it and I'm like, my God, it's just the beauty of the simplicity, in her storytelling and like I just I admire that. I think that is powerful. And you can, if you try to make it too complicated, there's a lot of room for error, because I tend to want to bring in so many different story elements and so many different, tricks and things like that, and that's not always the best way to tell a story. So I try to keep that in mind, like,
right,
you know, moving towards simplicity is actually better a lot of the time. Yeah.
Awesome. There is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there is a pretty supportive film community in Halifax. Like,
it's great. Yeah, it's really small, but small but mighty. And yeah, I think it's all kind of centered around AFCOOP, which is Atlantic Filmmakers Cooperative. I never knew it existed when I was growing up because I was an actor at the time. I wasn't really in the film community, but you know, it's a film co-op where you can go and rent equipment, but they also have classes. And they have the Film 5 program, which Sam and I actually did together, which is basically a training program to
talk about not believing in yourself. I feel like I held you way back during that process.
No, not at all. Oh my God. No, you were awesome. It was it's an intense training program, and it's at the end they select, so I think they take 8 people and then into the program, 8 writer directors and producers teams, and they're each working on a film. So through the program you get training, and then they select 4 films to go forward. So Sam and I did the program. We didn't go forward.
We didn't.
It was sad, but we got all the training, which was fun. But I ended up actually making a teaser for that was Creature He, which is the feature I've been working on. So we were working on a short film version of that, and I ended up actually making a version of it in Toronto a few years ago. So
see, there's the universe right there, because the universe wanted you to make it a feature, not a short film. So that's
well, that's what they said to us. Remember, they were like, "This seems like you're making a teaser for a feature film." I was like,
"That's right."
Oh.
Like,
no,
I was. That's awesome. And do you know, will that continue this year, the Film 5 program?
It is, yeah. I have a friend that I think has applied to it, and I don't know like how it will be altered. It's interesting because people are shooting. We're so lucky because, as you guys all know, most cities are really having huge outbreaks right now.
Yeah.
And we're really lucky to be in a part of the world where we're not, and people are able to carry on some degree of normalcy. But yeah, people are shooting in masks and somehow social distancing. I haven't been on set since COVID. I don't know how it's working.
I have a friend who works in TV productions in Vancouver, and they're back, but she said it's weird. She said there's a lot of new restrictions and all that, but she's just happy to be back. Right?
Oh my God, it must be so slow. Like it already was slow, you know, just the different setups and film and how long it takes. But it's like are they sanitizing? Like,
I don't know. I feel like asking her, like, she's originally from Nova Scotia, so maybe we should have her on.
Yeah.
But yeah, and when you think about, you know, with cast and crew and staying together, because Vancouver was fairly progressive in terms of prevention and that kind of thing. So I don't know. She just said that there's a lot of new rules, and it's very different than it was, you know, when they closed up set, but she's just happy to be back. So,
well, yeah. And it's curious how, you know, obviously actors can't socially distance in scenes, and so, you know, they gotta kind of bubble up, I guess. You know, you can't do a makeout scene without touching. So but that was what was, you know, it's interesting with this new film project because it really compels you to be local in, you know, whereas a lot of people fly in actors from Toronto and different places. It's like, it's just not practical. And I mean, it wasn't practical for short films anyway, but it's especially not practical now, because now you'd have to fly them in and put them up for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Or, self-isolate for 2 weeks before shooting. And I think that there's some pretty intense restrictions around children, like that they have to be part of, someone was telling me this, they're like, are you aware of this, while I was doing casting for the short in Newfoundland, that they can't be in scenes without, I don't know, but extra protections for minors.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it does, it makes a great case for shooting local, and it's nice that we have an Atlantic bubble, because my project's set in Newfoundland, and to be able to go over there freely, and it was weird I was surprised. I thought that we'd be socially distanced on the airplane. No. No, they just sat. I'm sitting half a foot away from someone.
Did you have to wear your mask? Did you have to keep it on?
Yes, and then I was extra paranoid, and I was wearing an N95 mask, and they were like, you can't wear that.
Oh.
What? I thought this was more safe because it has the opening or something. So what I did is I put an N95 and then a mask over.
What?
Crazy. And then, just feeling incredibly uncomfortable the whole Yeah. But I was surprised they had us jammed in there like sardines on the flight over.
I would have assumed the same, that they would just sell fewer tickets, and that Yeah,
I was surprised, and I paid for my seat intentionally in advance, because I'm like, I'm going to make sure I'm away from everyone. And then I go on the day of the flight, and it's like, oh no, there's people sitting all around me. It was weird. But I mean, we haven't had any, or we hadn't had any cases at that time. I don't think either place had. And so there's that. With people, I was surprised, and I'm scouting and kind of knocking on doors. I'm like, hey, I like your house. And people are like, come in. I'm like, wow, really? You want me to come in to your house? And they would, it's still, I think, culturally very different right now than places in the States. I can only imagine.
Totally.
We're very lucky.
We are. And I was just thinking when you were saying that, Truro, you thought Truro was really hospitable. Newfoundland, or St. John's in particular, is just
my God, salt of the earth. There's so many. Now, there were a few people that I knocked on the door, and they're like, can't be bothered, which is to be expected anywhere. But no, people were so helpful, and people just went out of their way to all right, I have a cousin who has a neighbor who has just the house you're looking for, and they went out of their way to refer me and find people. And so that was really that's the real draw. That's the real benefit of making films here in the Maritimes Atlantic region, is you don't get that in big cities.
It's so true.
Okay, so I want to nerd out on musical theater with you for just a second.
I'm so out of the loop with it, but yes.
No, you're not with my question. I think it was it was either you or Frank Lambert who recently shared, or in the last year or so shared, that you played King Herod in Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yes.
Is this correct?
Yes, and I was on stilts.
That's amazing. I've always wanted to play, I can't sing, by the way, but I've always wanted to play King Herod, because I was like, I feel like I don't need to necessarily sing well. I could kind of vamp it up a little, and it could be intentionally bad.
Yeah.
I was so jealous when I saw that you got to play King Herod.
Oh my God. Well, I definitely don't think I auditioned for that part. I auditioned for probably Mary Magdalene, and I was in grade 10. It was really sweet that Frank had this vision, which was so far beyond what you typically see at a high school, in a high school drama program. He had this vision for the role, which was really cool, of Herod is larger than life, and it's all this posturing, we're gonna put you on. How do you feel about being on stilts? Sure. I had a big lampshade as my hat, and that I created, and had to learn to walk on stilts.
Oh my God.
Nowadays, like, wouldn't happen. Like, people
No.
would be like, that's too dangerous.
Like liability, kind of red flash, flashing.
Yeah, this, like, 15-year-old kid or whatever on stilts on a stage.
Yeah.
But no, we did it. And
so cool.
I don't remember like how to walk on stilts, but at the time I knew. We worked on it and figured it out. It was
Truro
really
is
great.
So, you mentioned it already. Truro is so well known in the artistic community, like musicians and artists and creative people. A lot of
hub. It's a creative hub as well as the hub of the province.
And those musical theater shows that CEC, and I don't know about now. I truthfully haven't seen them in the last couple of years, but when we were growing up, man, that was like the thing. It was so
they were pretty elaborate, and we had like really. It was the staff, and I'm sure they're still going. And likewise, I haven't seen them for a while, but it was the teachers were just like they were passionate artists, and they wanted to do something far beyond the caliber of what a typical high school musical would be, and there was like a great audience to support it, but yeah, it's really telling that there's so many professional artists coming out of Truro.
It's such a long-standing tradition. I remember going to see The Wizard of Oz when I was in the 4th grade at CEC because my friend Allison Phillips was one of the Munchkins because one of her older sisters, Paul.
Yes.
Or one of her sisters was in the musical, and they had brought in kids to be the Munchkins, and we were all so excited because Allison was on stage.
Yes.
And then you don't realize how impressive it is until you realize that other high schools
often don't even have drama programs or whatever. Yeah, no, and I think that's what you're talking about, like the kids going to see that kind of keeps it going. Like that's how every kid starts. They went, every kid in Truro or anywhere, like, they go and they see those like older kids on stage and they go, I want to do that. And that's their, inspiration. So that's what's, it's so amazing that so many people from Truro are like came out of Truro and are now like on the national stage kind of thing, or Broadway. You guys should do interview
Julia McClellan. I remember saying that. I was it just popped into my head.
Add her to the list, ma'am.
I'm writing it down because I don't want to forget.
Jana Miller would be interesting too, although she's having a baby soon. But she's opera singer. Grew up with her. She's Truro.
I don't know her. Jana Miller, did you say?
Yeah, she was. She went more like the singing route in opera and stuff. And so she's been, all over the world singing. Or in the why am I forgetting her name? Oh my God.
Are you going to say Brenna Conrad?
No. Is her name? Oh my God, Jan Archibald.
Oh gosh, yes, she is on the list actually, but I haven't reached out to her yet.
Yes.
This is a good one. Yeah.
Well, I can't believe I just like brain farted on her name. Yeah. Those are good people to look at too.
Awesome. I forgot about Julia, but she's lovely. That's a good one.
Yeah. And I think she's been on Broadway or maybe she's been in national tours that went to New York.
Julia was on Broadway. She was in Kinky Boots, wasn't she?
Yes.
I think. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
So Joanna Burris just commented, I don't know if you can see it on the side there, Leah, and she's talking about how King Herod is a stellar role. She would have loved to have seen that, but also she wants to go watch Ingrid and the Black Hole. And my question to you is, how do people watch Ingrid and the Black Hole?
I have them all available just on Vimeo, so you can go to my website. So it's just Leah, Leah Johnston, JOHNSTON.com. And all my short films are there. Thanks for wanting to watch. Not many people watch short films, so
I'm a fan of short films. I used to work at the Atlantic Film Festival, and that was my jam. Like, was just going to the short film screenings because they're just, you get to put so much into a short period of time and see so many different styles.
And if you don't like them, they're over really soon.
So true.
Yeah, that was the same thing for me, Sam. Like the Atlantic Film Festival this year did their stream festival, and I won some tickets, and I'm like, I use them for the short film programs because, you get a lot bang for your buck. And
totally. No, that's
awesome. It's a lot of work to tell a story in a short amount of time.
It is a kind of a skill.
Your editing skills must be very fine too.
Yeah. And when you get a ticket for a feature, like I really want to know I'm gonna like it. Because you're putting in that time investment of an hour and a half, 2 hours. And so a short is, short programs are non-committal. You can be like, oh man, this one really sucks, but it's gonna be over. and then there might be like an amazing one right after it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love them too. But yeah, you can check them out there. Thanks for wanting to see.
I'll throw your link in there after our chat, just so in case anyone else.
I feel, is it my fault that we're doing it on Friday? Maybe I said that.
We move around
all the time.
Okay, I was like, maybe I threw off their schedule because you were saying it.
No. It just so happens that we haven't had one on a Friday yet. We've done them, I think, on every other day of the week. So
okay, good.
And every time it kind of goes up and down time-wise. I think we're doing one at 10 a.m. coming up. So
next week we can, while you're on the call here, Leah, we can announce we're going to chat with Charlie Acourt next Thursday at 10 a.m. So we're excited for that one too.
Awesome. I think this is a really cool series that you guys are doing. What made you guys think to do this?
So from a very selfish perspective, it was just to be able to, like, we both work from home. And so it was a way to kind of still feel like you're connecting with the community on some level, where you're not just running to meetings and running into people at, coffee shops and that sort of thing. So it really was a much more focused, of course, way of still connecting with the community. And to feel not so much like a hermit.
Yeah, it's a great reaction to COVID to have. The constraint of the pandemic brought forth this like creative project for you two, but also you're connecting many other people in the process of you guys trying to connect.
And we love to chat with people we don't really know that well too, right? So it's been, I'm really enjoying it. So
you guys are such great ambassadors for Truro. Like, I just feel like you're always doing like cool projects and you're always like promoting the community, and you guys are just awesome.
Thank
you.
Yeah. So are you. So Michelle, let's throw it to our last question.
Yes. So one of our awards for our Local Love Truro Awards is our What is Your Most Loved Place to Show Off Truro? So when you're home or you have somebody here visiting, where do you like to show off the town?
Oh, this is kind of a weird place, but whenever we go to Truro, I'm always like, we have to go to the Food Muster. It's not a landmark or anything, but it's like, it's such a little treasure in Truro. It's like the food is so good. They take such care. Every dish, even if it's kind of, a typical, something pretty standard, they always add a little something special. And so I'm always like, is that what you mean?
Yes. However, it's closed now. That's why you were getting that reaction from us.
Yeah,
you didn't answer it right.
Oh no!
Neither of us wanted to be the one to tell you that it closed.
Like for good, or just like temporarily? Oh no! that is really sad.
Because I agree, they had amazing food. I 100% agree. And I would take I have family from PEI. My husband's from Summerside, and every time his sister would come, she'd be like, "We have to go to Food Muster," because she loved it so much.
It was so good. It was like they were so creative with like the most basic dishes, and I also just loved how they were just so low key about it. Like it was just like for the longest time is that little, you know, it was like a hole in the wall.
Oh yeah.
Like they didn't, you know, it's not all, you know, doesn't look like a fancy restaurant. It was very casual. Like there was no, and but the food was like top notch. Oh, it's so sad. I know that the chef, or you know, maybe I guess he was the owner, but like had back problems and stuff, and so
yeah.
Oh, that makes me sad. Okay, so
what's your favorite place?
It's not the Food Muster. I don't know. I mean, maybe Victoria Park. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, now we've depressed you, so
I'm sad. I'm gonna be reeling from that. That was such a little gem in Truro. And did it
great Indian place, the place that you're talking about, that Food Muster used to be in, that little small
yes, and then they moved.
There's a great Indian place in there now, the first location, and that's really good too.
Indian food in Truro.
I know, it's very.
Oh, we're getting an Asian grocery. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, I saw that somewhere on Facebook, and I was like, "Ooh,
Truro is evolving."
Moving on.
Yeah, yeah. For the longest time, there was only like, you know, very limited cuisine that you could get in Truro. So that's exciting too.
It really is. Yeah.
Here. Yeah, I guess my second place would be Victoria Park.
Good choice. It's so good.
Make them climb. Yeah.
I bring people who haven't gone up Jacob's Ladder, and I wait at the bottom.
Yeah. This is like a Truro. Yeah, this is a Truro thing. You have to walk up, and if you make it up all the way to the top, then you're adopted into.
Yes. Exactly. That's good. Well, Leah, thank you so much for chatting with us. It was really nice.
Thanks for having me. I hope I didn't bore people too much. I'm very boring these days, but
not at all.
So lovely to talk to you guys. I'm really touched that you thought of me, and I support this show. I hope you guys. I'm looking forward to seeing the next episodes.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, thank you for watching us. That's fantastic.
No problem. I enjoyed it. I got into, you know, when you invited me, I'm like, I'd like to watch a few episodes, and I kept watching more and more. So I think it's a really cool project, and yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. And thanks to everyone for watching, and we'll see you next Thursday at 10 with Charlie Acorn.
Bye, guys.